So the new Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch V2 is in stores now. It's pretty easy to find. You can go to most Walmarts or Targets or GameStops, walk in and look for a red box. Now, if you're unaware, when you walk in, you want to look for one of these guys. This is the box that it comes in, as opposed to it being like a white and red design. It's all red. And at that point, you can go home with a Switch that has a much better battery life than the older one. But I know what a lot of you are wondering, is it worth going from your old Switch to your new Switch? Is it worth getting rid of this one and picking up this one? And unfortunately, there's no clear-cut answer because it really comes down to how you use the system. However, I'm going to go over the new Switch, talk a bit about what I found now that I've played it for pretty much this entire week, and let you know if it really is something that you want to look into picking up. So right off the bat, it's the same price as the older Switch, so it's not like it's not even really seen by Nintendo or even most retailers as a new SKU. I do know that GameStop sees it as Nintendo Switch V2. It's actually, if you look on your receipt when you buy one of them now, it says V2 on it. It's interesting the way that they have it named, but it's not technically new to them. So Nintendo has put these out there quietly. It seems like in restocks they've put them out, so it's not even like they were ordering them specifically for it. So you may have to look around a little bit even now. However, most places I've visited over the past 2 days, whether it's a Walmart or a Target, have had them behind the glass, whereas before, at the beginning of the week when I was looking all over the place, they did not. And the idea here is that the Switch has undergone a very, very slight change, revision, whatever you want to call it. The processor inside seems to have changed very, very slightly. Now, on the channel, we did an unboxing and I tore it down to take a look at the chip. And again, it just wasn't that different. It has a different code on top and a different identifying number, but when you look it up online, it doesn't come up with anything. So as far as we can tell now, it is a new Tegra, but not really new. It still appears to be an X1. It's just changed somewhat to the point where it provides 40% better battery life, and that's the biggest thing. I'll stop you right now if you just play docked. I know people who don't even take the Switch out of the dock. They're not into the portable scene. They don't care about, being able to walk around with the Switch outside of the home. This isn't for you. This is a revision you can pretty much ignore at this point, as the biggest benefit here is battery life. And that is a pretty massive change. It's something that I've noticed, and if someone didn't tell me that was what the big deal was with this Switch, I would have just ended up noticing. I played at one point a good chunk of the day away from any type of dock or power source. I was playing Fire Emblem for quite a while, most of the day, hours and hours, and I double-checked the battery after I had played for 3 or 4 hours, and it was at 45% or something. And that was after 3 or 4 hours. I probably still had another hour and a half to 2 hours of Fire Emblem, which does access the online and everything and uses Wi-Fi. I probably could have got 5 to 6 hours somewhere in there out of Fire Emblem, and it seems to be the same, about 5 to 6 hours. I play with brightness up much higher generally, but 5 to 6 hours for Fire Emblem or Zelda is pretty good. That can go from, 3 hours to 5.5 can be a big enough deal for some people to want to get this, because it does turn the Switch mostly into a portable then, right? Before it was a system that had a battery and it was okay, and now most people look at that and say, okay, 5 hours, that feels more like a battery I can deal with throughout the day, since I'll be turning it on and off most likely. And now that I have these screens back on, let's talk about some of the differences that appear to be popping up online. And the biggest one that I've seen, and I noticed pretty quickly as well, is the screen. The screen on the newer Switch, the HAC01, is warmer, and it appears to be slightly brighter. And Kevin Kenson on his YouTube channel took a look at it with someone who's a bit more of an expert with color balance and all that, and colors on screen, and it appears to confirm it. It is seemingly just over the threshold to be played outside in direct sunlight and still be able to see it. And I did take it outside and just take a look, and you can. It's still tough when the sun is beating down on it, but it is brighter. And again, might be a big enough deal to people who are outside a lot with the Switch, but it's not, I think, bright enough to the point where you're going to be playing it outside in heavy sunlight. I think it's still kind of hard to see overall, but still a warmer screen and a brighter screen. Maybe you like like a cooler screen, like more of a bluish tint to it. You might want to stick with your regular one, because once you go up to here, you will notice it, especially when the display is blank and like it's all white. Like if you turn the theme on for all white, you can really notice it. And I can also tell you it is not using the IGZO or the IGZO screens from Sharp. I wanted to verify this myself, so I actually pulled the screen out of this one. I put it back, it works, it's fine. But I pulled the screen out and it's still using the InnoLux brand screen. It seems to be a newer one. It's a different model number and everything, so that might explain why it's warmer and slightly brighter. But no, we're not into that realm of them using this new technology from Sharp that some higher end stuff is using that we've seen rumored by the Wall Street Journal. That most likely would be saved for either a more expensive revision like an actual Pro or a next gen system. I don't think it'll even be used in the Lite, because the Lite is trying to be a cheaper alternative to this. And if they're not using it in the $300 one, why would they use a more expensive technology in the Lite? I think that'd be safe more for a premium or just next gen, years and years from now. Next up is the Joy-Cons, and I guess just the overall build quality. Now, the overall build quality that I've seen is the same. Like I think there is a little bit of a placebo effect, and I've noticed this as well. Going from an old device, system, phone, handheld to a new one, especially if you've been beating up the old one, you've been using it a lot, it's tough to really tell. The Joy-Cons are pretty much the same as more recent ones, and if you've been handling or using the same Joy-Cons for quite a while, yes, it will feel different, but I had a lot of people message me after the video about the Joy-Con revisions, or did they, fix the Joy-Cons up? And people were telling me that some of their recent ones actually had that same C3 designation on the back and had that same antenna placement. That was over the course of the past few months, so these just appear to be the newest Joy-Con controllers in general. However, pretty much the plastics and everything are still virtually identical, so if you have newer Joy-Con controllers and you buy the new Switch, you're still getting the same ones you already have. But if you go from something like a gray Joy-Con to these neon colored Joy-Cons, they will feel different. I think that's just mostly because the material on this plastic is different from this plastic, and that's mostly it. The body of the Switch, also the same. Like, there's really no difference there either. I was hoping the kickstand would be a little different. It appears to be the same from what I can tell. And again, not that different at all. Really, overall, it's pretty much the same system as we've kind of discussed in the past, and as most people started to figure out if they bought it. Performance was something else that a lot of people have been trying to figure out if it's different. I know we're probably gonna have to wait for like Digital Foundry or someone with a bit more expertise in that department, but all of the games I played, there wasn't anything that made me go like double take or say, wait a minute, I think this is performing better. Whether it's Zelda or Fire Emblem or Xenoblade Chronicles 2, all of these games I checked out and they all seem to play the same or within margin of error. So I don't think there is any extra performance coming from the chip in this one as opposed to this one. Once again, I think it's just kind of the newness factor or the excitement over having something that clearly performs better when it comes to efficiency, but I don't think clock speeds or anything like that is any different. I seriously think it's all running the same pretty much. I will say one thing I noticed, and this could be from the power draw or again, the efficiency of the chip that's in this one currently. I feel like it was quieter and it was cooler when running in portable mode. And that could just be the games that I chose to play while in portable mode, whether it's Fire Emblem or a Zelda or Super Mario Maker 2. Those are the three games I played a lot of. A little bit of Xenoblade, like I said, to test it, and some Doom, but I didn't play it. Like Mortal Kombat seems to cook this thing, and I didn't play Mortal Kombat, so I'll be curious if other people do, but it was something I noticed. It seemed quieter, the fan didn't kick up as much, and the back didn't get nearly as hot to the touch, and I think that at least makes sense if you really consider what's happening here with it being a more efficient chip and power draw seemingly being better inside. So I am comfortable at least saying that I think it runs a little cooler. But once again, it's not any, like this wasn't on fire in the first place for me. So then going here and seeing a couple degrees difference once again, might not be worth you going out and buying a whole nother Switch for another $300. Really, the way I look at it is this: if you want a new Switch in general because you've beaten yours up, because it travels a lot, and you like the idea of better battery life, this is probably worth picking up. And I know the big argument is just get a battery bank, and that's true. You can do that for this one. Just as an example, this is the SC battery case. It's a 10,000 milliamp hour battery that can attach right to your Switch as a case. It's a pretty cool kickstand. We've covered this in the past, and I do know I was able to get roughly 10 hours out of this with this attached to it, because this just charges the battery over and over as you use it, right? It just draws from this guy. But consider this. This same one on here will get roughly 17 to 18 hours. So actually, as you incorporate a battery bank, this just separates itself further from this one. So think about that too. If you travel a lot and you already have a battery bank and you're like, okay, I'm getting like 8, 9, I mean, there's a large one, 10,000 that attaches to it. You know, like 8, 9, 10 hours total with it. All of a sudden you can get, 17 hours. That's a pretty big difference. So I actually think the battery bank argument works a bit against the original Switch if you really start to add up how many charges you're going to go through with that. I guess the other question is, if I wasn't buying this to do a comparison, to take it apart, to tear it down and check everything out, would I have picked this up? Does it make sense to get one of these if you already have a Switch? For me, no, actually, I probably wouldn't have bought it, to be honest, because I don't play my Switch as much portably as I do docked. I'm more on the side of playing on a monitor and recording footage and all of that, and then occasionally I'll be around the house with my Switch. I don't really take it outside as much. It's mostly portable inside. So because of that, I probably would have taken the $300 and put it towards games, or saved it up for the possibility of a Switch Pro being introduced next year, maybe. Even the Switch Lite might appeal to me a bit more because it's at least smaller and it's all one piece, and that might be better to take on things like to conventions or other things like that. So no, I probably wouldn't have bought this, to be honest. And to be honest, I wouldn't feel any type of, what's the word, FOMO, or fear of missing out. I wouldn't feel that at all about this if you're not on board of the portable aspect with this thing. If you're just someone who plays docked, you just move right along from this. And ladies and gentlemen, those are my thoughts on the new Switch, the Switch V2, if you will. Interesting device. I'm still curious how they got so much battery power out of it, what the chip inside is and how it's become more efficient, but we'll have to wait for more information, whether it's an X-ray or maybe Digital Foundry can look into it further with documents that may be provided to developers, or who knows, but we'll see if any other information comes out about that. And I'll also be taking a look at the Switch Lite, so if you're curious about what's in that one, make sure you are subscribed down below to keep up to date on all of the happenings with that. Make sure you guys like the video if you enjoyed it, especially if it was helpful to you, and dislike it if not, and I'll see you guys next time.